Okay, well, welcome to our Free Society podcast here at Hannibal LaGrange University. The Free Society program here at HLGU is built upon three pillars: free market economics, limited government, such as that we see currently right now in our administration, and also cultural institutions such as the church. And so we're excited today to have Zan Prince from Texas here. She is a banker, an owner-operator in Texas, has been heavily involved in conservative politics for many, many years. And so we have a lot to talk about today. The table is full. Conversation could go in a lot of different directions. We'll kind of see how that goes and where the Lord might lead us in our conversation. But we always like to start our podcast, Free Society, with kind of a fun sort of kind of get to know you sort of question. So I've wondered this, and I've never heard anyone with the name Zan. So could you tell us a little bit about the origin of your name?
Sure.
And is it short for something? Is it a family name? You could just interesting.
No.
We meet a lot of people. So my wife's name's Stephanie. There are a lot of Stephanies in the world, but I've never met a Zan.
Well, it's really kind of funny because I have some friends that say that Zan is peace in Palestinian. That is not the connection for me.
Okay.
No. So my parents went to very, 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 very small high schools.
Okay.
Their names were Mary and Joe. There were more Marys and Joe besides them in these tiny little high schools.
Certainly.
So they were concerned that I would have a name that would be unique to me. And so my dad worked for White's Auto and went on a washing machine repair call in a few months before I was born. And he met the first Zan that he had known.
Okay.
And brought it back. And that's how I got my name.
That's a great story.
White's Auto service call.
Wow. I have such a boring name. It's Eric.
It's not boring.
Oh, I met a lot
And
of
I know
Erics.
lots of Zans.
Really? Do you? Okay.
I do.
Okay.
So we should introduce you to all of them.
Maybe is there a conference? Is there a Zan conference?
Club. I don't know about that, but we should all gather together.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That would be good. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Were they all around Texas?
being open.
You know, or
they're all in Texas.
Okay.
Yes.
It's got to be a Texas thing.
It's a Texas thing. Interesting. Well, great. That just kind of launches us off. There's no connection to the next question. That's just sort of a fun sort of for our listeners, our people who watch regularly to get to know our guests. One of the questions that I have had is you have spent probably a considerable amount of time analyzing and thinking about the evolution of conservative politics. You mentioned to me your first straw poll was for Richard Nixon when you were in, was it fourth grade? Fifth grade?
I was probably in the fifth grade.
Fifth grade.
1968.
Okay, so from Richard Nixon to Trump, right?
Wow.
And so you've seen the evolution of conservative politics, where we've come, where we started even before Nixon, but where we are, like in your experience. Talk with us a little bit about maybe the future of conservative politics post-Trump, like because that's where we're headed, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no more re-elections. There's
no more. Doesn't matter what people say.
No matter what people say on the internet, there's no. This is the end. Maybe not the end of his influence, of course, but where do you see conservative politics landing in the next election cycle, or maybe in the next several years?
So I think that the country, because we started with Nixon to Trump, right?
Yeah.
The country has become less conservative, right?
Yeah.
And so the polarization between the Democrats and the Republicans, just look at the platforms, that it's polarizing, and those issues, many of those issues are not compatible in the same vote, right? There's no compromise that we're going to make, they're going to make to come to consensus. And then you take it, so there's been this deviation, this difference gap between Republicans and Democrats. And then you look at today's conservative movement, and we have some that are my way, no way, We have some that are certain that they know better than anybody else, and their vote, their constituency is the only vote that matters. When they sit in a body of 435 people or 100 people that has to come to consensus for the good of the country. And so for our country to move forward, we have to come back to a dialogue that is respectful, that is civil. We need to come back to the core values of the United States of America. We are built on a biblical foundation for Christ-centered principles. And had we stayed faithful to those principles, we wouldn't be having a lot of the discussions we're having today.
Agreed.
If we got back to some of the basics, law and order and secure borders, national defense, life was not a debatable issue prior to the 70s. And so whether it's Democrats, Republicans, or it's conservatives on the Republican side, we have to learn how to leverage our opinions and our support, our debate for our side to a point that is sellable and acceptable to all parties, all stakeholders.
But don't you think we need to make arguments that are both sound in their logic, but also not elevated in their rhetoric?
Oh my goodness, yes.
We need to return to that, right?
Right. So the name calling, and maybe it's gone on forever, but it's gone.
I think behind
it's going
doors
on
it has.
steroids.
But it's like,
There's a history of
it's way
all the
higher.
back to Lincoln and
Right
even
now.
people.
Right.
And social media helps with that, certainly.
Well, it does, because they can call you names and they can say the most bizarre things that have no basis in truth with complete anonymity. What they'll do on a keyboard, they would never do to our face, right?
Yes.
Right.
So we have to decide that we're better than the rhetoric, that we're
Amen.
better than just attacking anybody that doesn't 100% agree with us. And, you know, between Nixon and Trump, there was a Reagan. And Ronald
Exactly.
Reagan said that somebody that agrees with you 80% of the time is your friend. And he also said, you do not speak ill of other Republicans.
Yeah.
We should be having our family discussion in private, and then we ought to go out and in unity with the best solution, fight for that solution.
I mean, I remember the clip of John McCain when he was running for president, and somebody was complaining about Obama being a Muslim, and he said, no, he's a good man, right? And he, I mean, agree or not agree with his platform, you know, still that was still winsome of John McCain to say that. I don't think that would happen today.
So probably not. But John McCain conceded that election.
He did.
He conceded it. He said there was nothing to fear from President Obama. There was plenty to fear.
We found that out the hard way.
Plenty to fear. And we knew it. If you read his book and you knew what he said, you knew how he was going to lead. You knew. Right. So you think about the racial divisions, the religious divisions in this country that by and large had become a thing of the past until we had a President Obama. What a tragedy that John McCain said, well, it doesn't really matter who's president, because if you say it doesn't really matter who's president, they vote for the other guy.
That's true.
Right?
Yep.
Because whatever you're offering, you don't think is distinctly better than what they're offering. So why don't they just give it a chance? And then, of course, we offered up Mitt Romney, who wasn't a staunch conservative either, and who had a history of Obamacare-like health care in Massachusetts. And it's just a recipe for disaster, and I think we're still paying for the consequences of an Obama presidency.
Who do you think the Republicans are going to offer up post-Trump?
Now, that's a good question. I have a list of folks I like.
Sure.
Right?
Who do you like?
Oh, who's
I
your
like.
number one?
Now, that's a good question too, because I'm not sure I have a number one, but maybe I have two number ones. I like Marco Rubio.
Okay.
I
agree.
like J.D.
Agreed.
Vance.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like Ron DeSantis.
Yep.
Those are probably my top three.
Top three.
Yep.
Mine too.
And really, what has to happen is that we can't annihilate them in the primary.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what class it was today. We talked about it was yours about
microeconomics.
about we have to offer why us. So I've been campaigning for more decades than I'd like to admit, and I don't go negative.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I can articulate why you should vote for Senator John Cornyn. I can articulate why you should have voted for President Donald Trump. If I can't articulate 3 compelling reasons why you should vote for my candidate, then my mouth needs to shut.
Again, we're back to sound argument, right?
Sound argument.
Civil discourse.
And it shouldn't be about, I don't like his tan color. I don't like his hair. That's not what I'm electing.
Yeah.
I'm electing somebody that is sold out for the good and protection and the future of the United States of America.
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. Mr. Ayer, I just want to give you an opportunity maybe to jump in and
Sure.
maybe got some questions for Zan.
I think you kind of answered this, but I'm gonna kind of just throw this out there. Who's your number one president all time?
Oh, that's a great question.
So that is a good question because different ones of them were extraordinary for their time.
Okay.
Right?
Let's leave out. Let's say modern because George Washington and Abraham Lincoln should be right up there no matter what. Let's say modern.
So Ronald Reagan presented an extraordinary move back to the moral majority, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He reached out to people across the aisle. He brought that civil discussion to the table. He defended with a completely Democratic Congress. He defended the United States and told the world stage that you're not going to jack with the United States of America, right?
Yeah.
Kind of reminds us, we've been 47 years that Jimmy Carter allowed the Iranian regime to thumb their nose at the United States of America and to kill Americans and our allies. And, of course, on January 20th, 1981, they decided they didn't want to mess with Ronald Reagan and they let him go.
That was like the next day, wasn't it?
Oh, it's the same day. He had not left the inaugural services before they had announced or had released the prisoners.
I met Jimmy Carter in Hannibal, Missouri.
Wow.
He came through here. Oh, I was 5 years old. I mean, he came through here campaigning.
I voted against him.
And I shook his hand.
Well, there you go.
In downtown Hannibal.
And there's no reason you shouldn't have.
No, right.
He really was
a
nice man.
He was a nice man. He was a Southern Baptist. I mean, he was growing up Southern Baptist. And so.
I voted for the other guy.
Right.
Okay. Okay. And then you think about it, George Bush was called for a special time.
Yeah.
So thank God on 9/11/2001, it was President George Bush to stand up for the unification of the United States citizens against radical Islam.
Yeah.
And thank God, even though it evolved into something that was longer than it should have been, or maybe was expanded beyond, but that he said no to terrorism. No to terrorism. Yes to tax cuts. We talked about tax cuts earlier. Yes to tax cuts. No to terrorism. And then I think Donald Trump is the most amazing disruptor in the history of the human world.
He's really has.
Maybe not quite that much, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And there might be a timing there for him that's ideal too.
Exactly. Yeah. So each of them has had their own specific a time such as this, right?
Yeah.
And so Donald Trump, I campaigned for him. I block walked for him in 2016, and I really block walked against Hillary Clinton. I didn't say that. I campaigned on the platform.
Right.
But in 2020, when I went back to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to block walk, I was block walking for my president. In 2024,
what differences did you
walking.
notice between those two times?
So
when you were block walking and talking to people.
So in 2016, they were ready for Donald Trump. They were ready for something different. They were tired of the assault on oil and gas, coal. People were tired of 8 years of pitting Americans, winners and losers. Obamacare was a complete disaster.
Yeah.
I don't know about your medical insurance. Ours went up 35% the day they voted, and then it went on from there. But Donald Trump, I think one of the differences, we met him. And he is an incredible human being to talk to. We were in a small group with him. He's an incredible communicator.
I've heard
His heart is absolutely sold out for the United States people.
Yeah.
And
the military.
And the military. So, and it goes back, right? So Bill Clinton didn't respect and appreciate the lives of our babies that we're serving.
Yep.
Obama didn't particularly appreciate our military, so he just has a really good heart.
I think about like when Bill Maher met him, like the liberal commentator, the podcaster Bill Maher, got invited to go sit down with Trump and had dinner, and it completely changed his perspective on how he viewed him. Because he'd lobbed insults at him from afar through podcasting, through social media, and then they sat down and had a conversation. Like suddenly things were different, and he didn't fully defend his platform. Again, he disagrees with him, but he says, "I respect him as a person." Like
I respect what he's doing for the United States, and I have to say I'm appreciative that after 47 years. We are saying no to Iranians killing Americans and our allies. 47 years.
I remember the Marine barracks bombing.
Oh my goodness, yes.
When I was young, and I remember it, and it distinctively sticking in my brain, and like what is happening.
Well, and it's part of why 9/11, 2001. I was so incredibly thankful that it was President George Bush, because of course we had the USS Cole in 2000, right?
Yeah.
And so as I stood at a high school football game, I cried as we played the national anthem because we didn't give our military the tools to defend themselves or to defend their friends, or if we're in a conflict, to win the conflict.
Yeah.
And you can fast forward that, and you can look at what Biden did with the withdrawals.
Oh,
and
yes.
I have another question for you.
Okay.
So some people say that Donald Trump is the most pro-life president ever. Would you agree with that?
He has done more for the pro-life movement than any other president, including people who were sold out to the pro-life movement like Ronald Reagan and George Bush. He has affected the policy changes.
Which is amazing because there is no law saying that you can abort a child. It's a Supreme Court ruling.
Right.
Right.
And now look at where we're at now. Oh, it's just amazing.
It is amazing. So you think about it, I don't believe in legislation from the bench. If those 535 people can't figure it out, the president can't sign it, then don't file suit and send it to the courthouse. But it's like some of my friends, they're like, when I tell them I don't like legislating from the bench, they're like, well, you liked the life ruling from the bench. I said, well, it's kind of different. First of all, so we got the precedent from the bench and we took it away from the bench. And I think it's important.
Yeah.
And
it's important to me. I was adopted.
very important.
I was adopted when I was less than a month old. And I was adopted in 1971, so it was right on the cusp of Roe v. Wade, right? And so my life could have been ended, or it could have been very different than what it was. So people say, how long have you been pro-life? I think my entire life, because it's personal.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and it goes back to what we were talking about, God and country and then family, right?
Yes.
And so our country needs to remember the foundation. We need to remember that we are blessed because of the man that put our country together, or
Yes.
the God that
Yes.
put our country together. And there's no fix for unrepentant sin. And the United States of America has extraordinary levels of unrepentant sin.
Agreed.
And you take it a step farther, many of our churches have become compromised
Absolutely.
in things that are grossly unbiblical.
Yes, absolutely. I want to shift a little bit. That's a good word. I mean, I want to shift a little bit to talking about one of our pillars about free market economics. And you've been in the banking industry for a long time. And so what currently, though, right now, what's the greatest threat to the banking industry that you see in our country?
Layers of regulation. So as we have layers of regulation to make sure that we do the right thing when we were already doing the right thing in the name of protecting consumers or protecting business owners, it's a high cost.
Yeah.
And there is a high consequence if you miss something.
It's the same thing in higher education with accreditation.
There you go.
It's layered. And it's not getting less.
No.
It's only increasing in
Right.
scope. And people understand there's a huge cost involved to that
That's right.
of doing business. So how do you fix that?
So as for me, I talk to elected officials on a pretty regular basis. I tell anybody that will listen that in the 80s when we had a banking crisis, there was plenty of laws on the books to send the perpetrators to the penitentiary. And every banking crisis since that they have thought they needed a law to further restrict the bad behavior. There have always been plenty of laws to send people who have bad behavior to the penitentiary. And I don't know if they know this, but if somebody's going to break one law, they probably don't care if you make it 4 laws that they break. So the cost of regulation is left on those people that didn't create the problem, wouldn't create the problem, and are doing the right thing to the best of their abilities today.
Yeah.
When you're contacting the different politicians, do you do it at the state level, federal level, or both?
Yes. All the above.
All the above. Anyone you can contact, right? What's the best forum for people that are just starting to do this and get active in politics? What's the best way to get a hold of
Okay,
politicians?
Mike and I actually go with different groups to lobby in DC and Austin. But the simplest way is to go to house.gov or go to senate.gov and click on whatever member you want to contact and send an email. Just send an email. Tell them what you think. Send an email.
Have you ever received a personal response from them? by doing that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know who's running for president when you do that because their responses are more personal
I like
than
that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
right.
Yeah.
So I would, if I sent something out today, I would get every person that's considering the run for the presidency in 2028 with a pretty nice response.
Yeah. Who do you think the Democrats are going to run?
I don't know.
You think they have their act together? Or you think it's too factional? I mean, they were a mess, obviously, the last election cycle with Harris and the Minnesotan. So where do they go from here? Who do
So,
they put forth?
so I would hope that the United States of America rejects the policies of anyone that they're talking to today or talking about today. But that means that Republicans are going to have to stand up and they're going to have to tell 3 compelling reasons to vote for the Republican.
Yeah.
And generically, right? Preach the platform.
Yeah.
Preach the platform. Because if you're talking to somebody and you're talking about life or abortion, or you're talking about open borders and millions of illegal immigrants, including terrorists and sex offenders and murderers and I don't know what all else, or people that are trafficking babies. So we open the borders to allow people trafficking babies to come into our country. What kind of perversion is that? And so we have to stand up and talk about being the party of life. And it's like I told some kid, block walking in Pittsburgh, I said, do you think I mean abortion? I said, and I do, but I'm going to tell you that I want you to stand for life from the very time that they're conceived until they have a natural death.
Right.
So
Yep.
I don't want you to decide that somebody's inconvenient or too much trouble or you don't have money for them. I don't want any of it. I don't want a leader in our country to think that military lives are disposable, that we put them in harm's way without all the tools to be successful. So for me, life means a whole lot more than abortion. It means the sanctity of every human being and us being behind their success.
We talk about that a lot here on campus, and that's one of our values of our biblical worldview is that people are to be seen as subjects of God's grace, not as objects. And so I talk in my biblical worldview class about what you believe about the abortion issue, yes. But like you said, life from conception to the grave. And so I use illustrations of my grandmothers, both of whom suffered from dementia and Alzheimer's in the nursing home.
Sorry.
And that was hard. But also there were moments of joy. There was moments of, I remember visiting with my grandma Turner, and I said, now, you realize you were a member of Calvary Baptist Church. And she said, well, duh, I know that. She knew the gospel. She knew her hymns. It was a small thing for me to have to remind her that I was her grandson. She knew the most important things, but she's a person.
Yeah, still a person.
Still a person.
Yeah.
And so to open the eyes of this next generation to see that is so critical. And that's what I'm talking about, like earlier, like making a sound argument and taking your arguments to their logical conclusions, right?
Right.
If you don't value life as it's conceived, the logical conclusion is, we'll move to Canada, and if you're depressed, commit suicide by the state.
Which now it sounds like what they're doing is they just, even if you go in there, they automatically ask that question now.
They're pushing,
they're
in Canada, they're pushing people towards
Really?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that just means we're all disposable.
We're disposable, right? We're objects, and not, there's removing value
Right.
from people. And I think the Republican platform, conservative politics, wrapped up in the right free market economics, as we're trying to do here with the Free Society Grant, that's inherent within what we're trying to do and what we're trying to explain to our students here.
Can we talk a little bit more about economics?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's get into
Let's
this
see
a
if
little
I
bit.
can figure this out.
What do you think I'm going to ask about?
I don't know.
Taxes.
Taxes.
I love talking about taxes.
Yeah, because
So there's a big debate going on right now of where we should head. Do we like the income tax the way it is? Do we move towards a consumption tax? How do we do this? What's going to be fair? Does the Constitution allow for an income tax, or should it be all corporate tax? That debate's out there too. Where are you at on taxes?
So I think that we should fund the government to do the things that they ought to be doing, and they ought to get out of the business of all other things. My favorite tax is consumption tax. And the Fair Tax Program has done accommodations so that they take into effect the Social Security or the Social Security disability issues. Yep. Yeah. And for me, it has the least likelihood of non-collection or fraud. It doesn't mean there won't be some.
It might be some, yeah.
Yeah, might be some. But, we all know people that on April 15th, they're hyperventilating because they don't just owe taxes. They owe a lot of taxes. And somehow they got to a point that they didn't understand that reinvesting in their company with profits is still taxable, right? Or that missing tax deposits has consequences.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have mechanism to collect sales tax. We have it's instant. Everybody pays.
Would the IRS be gone at that point?
Absolutely.
And so I think we've learned that the IRS can be weaponized. I think.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Yeah, we saw that last time around.
Yes.
So we'd completely obliterate that. Do you have concerns about a black market?
We already have one.
Very true. Yeah.
We already have one.
Yeah.
They're not paying income tax today. They may be paying property tax, but they're not paying income tax today.
Yeah.
But if they buy a big boat, they would pay consumption tax.
Okay.
If they buy a car, they pay consumption tax.
So if
And you think about it, property taxes, I don't know what they're like in Missouri, but in Texas, that's the primary revenue, sales and property tax are the primary revenue for the state. And so there's this big discussion about how you never really own your home because you're always in a position of having to pay property taxes no matter how old or how long.
Yeah.
And it's based on the current fair market value, not based upon your investment in your home. So you bought it in 1947, you're paying 2026 values and rates. And I really think that if you had a consumption tax on the front end, then you would eliminate that argument
for the property taxes.
for property
too.
taxes. Mm-hmm.
So if you could put your banking mind, economics mind, and political mind together, what would that look like for a tax rate for consumption?
Now, that's a good question because I've seen anywhere from 18 to 20.
Okay.
And then in fair tax, the low-income people have rebates, and Social Security is all calculated.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I dive into your banking side of you now?
Sure.
Okay. So the size, how big's the bank that you own?
$1 billion in assets.
$1 billion. How many people do you employ?
200.
So you employ 200 people. And we kind of talked about this before. With everything going on in the United States, we're seeing a few different states that you look at and you shake your head. What are you thinking? So California, they throw out wealth tax. Millionaires, billionaires start exiting before they even pass legislation. State of Washington, New York, Michigan a little bit, Illinois a little bit. Now the next one is Colorado. Would you ever consider opening a branch in one of those different states?
We would not.
Interesting. Yeah.
So if you take a look at that, if you're saying that as a business owner that employs 200 people, what does that mean for other people that own businesses that are larger?
So they have to make a decision, right? They could either change the states where they reside, or they have to make a decision that their business model no longer works in that environment. We talk about less taxes, less regulation, all the things at a national level, but it's at a state level too. So it's easier to do business in Texas than it is in California. It just is. And it's cheaper to do business in Texas than in California. Just is.
Yeah.
And I think I talked to some of the students this morning as they start looking at where they want to live. It's a hard game when you have a federal income tax, a state income tax, a city income tax, property tax, and sales tax. And, those places that think that they can gouge their citizens for benefits for those that not just need it, but aren't working or aren't, I don't know exactly how to put it, but they can't do all the freebies to folks. And, that goes back to what we talked about too. Welfare can't be
Generational. Can't be
generational. And it can't be anonymous, right? So there's this faceless government over here who has endless supplies of money. Why shouldn't I take it?
Automatically recharging the credit card. You don't even have to go and apply.
Right. So it's a sad thing that we have given our social needs to the government rather than the family and the church.
Okay, I have another question that's going to kind of pick on California a little bit.
Okay.
You're a business owner. You're looking at California. I believe their minimum wage is $18 an hour right now. What does that tell you?
So minimum wage is an inflationary tool.
Yeah.
It will never create what they want, because when you raise minimum wage to $18, you raise every other wage earner on the spectrum, all of them, They all get a raise. So then when they all get a raise, then all the prices go up. So you have this crazy late 70s sort of inflation that minimum wage kind of wasn't a thing. And then all of a sudden it went up all the time.
And who is it that
all
takes
it
those
did-
jobs? Who when the minimum wage go up, who is it that takes? It's not the people on welfare.
Well,
usually.
no. So, but the reality is that society, the business community, needs an efficient way without the government's help to set salaries.
Kind of
Right?
like a free market system where you don't
I've
even
heard
need
about
it.
those.
Kinda like that.
Yeah, funny how that works. So
Funny how that works. yeah.
if you have a minimum wage at $18 an hour, when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I think we should raise minimum wage," I just look at them and say, "So you're telling me you want to pay more for your hamburger?"
Yeah.
I mean, the
Well, or
reality of it
your
is,
yard work, or your
anything, yeah.
groceries, or
Right.
I mean, it has a ripple effect.
It does. Yeah.
We have never seen a minimum wage increase that it did not increase every salary in the bank.
yeah,
Every salary.
they were pushing 20 for a while, then backed off in California, and then businesses
they're
were going out of
confused.
business. Yeah,
Well, two things I've seen in California happen recently. One was not too long ago when the CEO of In-N-Out Burger was moving their corporate offices, I believe,
Wonderful.
to Tennessee. I thought,
Well, what was he thinking?
yeah,
I have a bias to Texas.
right.
Right?
Right, Kitchener, Texas. And then we were in Lake Tahoe last summer for one of my son's races, and we talked to a local pastor about how about doing ministry in this community. And he said the battle at Lake Tahoe now is on the Nevada side of the lake. Is all the billionaires from California are pushing out the millionaires at Lake Tahoe, and it's this big, huge fight because they're fleeing. Again, they're fleeing California.
they're fleeing the same stuff they supported. Most of them financially supported exactly what they got.
They're going to Idaho.
Take a look
they're
at the
going to
Starbucks,
Utah,
the gentleman
they're
that
going
retired
to
from Starbucks.
Montana. They're fleeing these states. And so the question I asked you at lunch about, like, you know, these people are fleeing California and moving to what typically are usually more conservative states like Texas and other places, Montana, you know, how that's going to affect and redraw the map, so to speak, of conservative politics. It's going to make it more difficult.
Well, most of the people that we're seeing coming from California and those other states, they're political refugees.
Yeah. How far are you from Austin, Texas?
3.5 hours.
Okay, so you're from, like, Austin's the liberal hotbed.
They can't help it.
Right, they can't help themselves.
They can't help themselves.
Joe Rogan, and which he's come a little ways.
Joe Rogan isn't.
He's come a little.
He's not a liberal.
He's not a true liberal, but he's come a
No.
long way from where he started, for sure. Right. It makes politics difficult when the map does change. Right. When people.
Oh, it does.
People are much more migratory in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as far as, I mean, my parents' generation, they've lived in the same house here in Hannibal
Mm-hmm.
their entire life. It was gifted to them by my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
They've never had a house payment, ever. Right? But neither of my parents went to college. Right? My dad worked at a chemical plant up north here. My mom worked at the school. Very financially stable, but that was enough for them. Right? But I mean, if you would talk to my mom and dad about moving, even like across town, let alone out of the state, they would think you're crazy. And my parents are the boomer generation, right? And so, but the younger generation, Gen Z, that's coming up is much more, people are movable. They go to this place for a while, they move this place for a while. So the stability of the political map is constantly changing.
So it provides an opportunity.
Yeah, that's
Right?
a good way to think about it.
It provides an opportunity. So the people that come into our communities, we ought to share with them why we are exceptional, right?
Yep.
We ought to be giving those. I'm going to go back to those 3 compelling reasons why the candidate's right, the community's right, and we need to make them a part of our community.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
we ought to invite them to our churches, and we ought to invite them to our community events.
Strong churches are the backbone of a strong community.
Absolutely.
So I would also love to ask them, why did you leave? And really nail it down to, why did you pull out of California? And don't give me platitudes. Nail it down to why you really left. And then we'll talk about why you're here and what's so great about what we're doing. That'd be really neat to see. I think there's some opportunity there. And I know you're a really positive person in everything you do. We talked about that before. You try not to criticize anybody in the Republican Party or anyone in general. You're just a very positive person.
So you think about it. People come as political refugees or their companies being relocated and they're horrified they're coming to Texas, right?
Yeah.
They think that we're backwoods, crazy people who believe in guns and I don't know what all, but
There's a few of those down there.
There's a few of those, but
just like there are in Missouri,
right?
Yeah. Yep.
But you think about it, we have to go reach out to the ones who are horrified that they're in our midst.
Yeah,
and we need to make it friendly, and we need to love on them, and
absolutely,
and we don't need to judge them because they used to live in California,
right?
Right.
Very true.
There are a lot of people that have switched parties, even to today with the gentleman that was running for governor. I'm not even going to throw his name out because I don't even want to talk about the individual. But one of his big donors today came out, a billionaire from California, and said, "I'm done with the Democrat Party."
Yeah,
there is hope there.
There is hope. And there's lots of people that have stepped to the other side. Who would have thought? Let's go back to Donald Trump, right?
Yep.
Who would have thought?
Democrat. He was a
that
Democrat.
RFK would be in his cabinet.
who would have thought that?
Okay.
It's just so.
He's an
bizarre.
amazing disruptor who is focused on the best solution for the problem.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a
Right?
businessman.
He is, but he has a sincere love for the United States.
So he was a Democrat back in the 80s and 90s, and you watch his videos, he's saying the same thing. So what does that tell you? That tells you the Democrat Party has changed completely, going back to what you're talking about. Look at the platforms. Look at what they stand for.
Well, and you think about it, I don't remember what year it was, sometime in the last 10 years, the Democratic National Convention, and they had voted to take God out of their platform in entirety, right?
I think that was under Obama, yeah.
Right. And so at the convention, they voted to leave the Lord out of their platform and then had this big stink, all this booing and stuff because the I guess the chair decided that it wasn't real appropriate, right? It was kind of a dangerous thing for their party to completely snub their nose at the Lord.
People can be changed. I'll admit here on this podcast, the first election I ever voted in was when I was 18.
Okay.
I voted for Bill Clinton.
Okay.
And the room goes quiet.
So,
But why? But why? I was uninformed, very uneducated about. We didn't talk a lot about politics growing up. Ronald Reagan was my president growing up. I liked Reagan. I thought Clinton was a cool dude. I was 18 years old, and so it was the charisma. It was.
Oh, he had charisma.
So it goes back.
You know?
It goes back to the John McCain issue, right?
Yeah.
John McCain and Barack Obama. So you had Daddy Bush and Bill Clinton,
right?
And Barbara and George Bush were tired by the time they ran against Clinton.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like you had somebody that looked like they had all the energy and you ever think that maybe people think that it doesn't matter who's president? I mean, that they're a figurehead or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they pick the one that they think looks the most appealing or the
on TV.
on TV.
Yeah.
So, and then we talked about this earlier in microeconomics, but we talked about how if you look at Bill Clinton, the second term with Newt Gingrich, and you talk about House having power, Newt Gingrich, Contract
that
America.
visual thing, I talked about this with our history professor is that visual thing goes back to JFK.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Right.
JFK beat
on
Nixon
TV.
on TV. Yes.
Because of he looked presidential.
And because South Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, details.
And JFK was a fiscal conservative too.
He would
so
not.
the Democrats back then.
He wouldn't be a Democrat.
He wouldn't be a Democrat now.
No.
Well, we appreciate your conversation. There's so much we could talk about. I know we could talk for hours. You're such a pleasure to visit with, and it's been so good to have you on campus. One final sort of question we want to direct at our listeners who we send this out to our students. And so if you could give this generation of students, this 20 to 25-year-olds, one piece of advice based upon your life experience, either in politics or business, what would that advice be?
So I would challenge them and encourage them to remember that they, with the power of the Lord, is enough, right? They have the power of one, and they can make a difference in their homes, in their schools, in their communities, businesses. They can make a difference going to Senate.gov or House.gov and saying, we disagree with this, and this is why. We want this, and this is why. But their voice in their vote, the day-to-day things that they do, they're enough. There's power there. They have all that they need. They don't have a half-empty cup. They don't have a half-full cup. They have a cup that is erupting in more than enough fullness from our Lord to make changes in all things at all times to the glory of the one that we serve.
It's almost like you're saying our faith
Amen.
affects everything that we do.
Yeah.
Everything
Amen.
we do.
Amen. Thank you, Zan, for being here, and thank you to our listeners, to our Free Society podcast. If you want to know more about Free Society at Hannibal-LaGrange University, you can go to our website, www.hlg.edu, and land on our Free Society page. Thanks again for listening. Thank you, Zan, and we will see you next time.